Welcome to Beyond the Desk Admin Advocates, where we explore what it truly means to be an administrative professional in today's world. I'm Melissa Mahoney, CEO of the International Association of Administrative Professionals.
And I'm Rachel Seaman, CXO of IAAP.
This podcast isn't your typical industry talk. We're here to bring you real conversations, real stories, and real solutions.
From AI to self-awareness journeys, we're here to discuss the deep issues that admins face every day. This is Beyond the Desk Admin Advocates.
Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 12. We are nearing actually the end of our season, which is just unbelievable. It's hard to imagine that we've been through 12 episodes. We have a couple more coming. And then we will have a little bit of a break, a hiatus, before we're back for season 3. So today, what we really wanted to talk about was sort of owning and recognizing your value. And specifically, we really wanted to talk about the differences between recognition, value. There's another one. Oh, and praise. Praise is the third one. So sometimes we tend to mix those three things up, or we have our own definitions of what those things mean. So we really wanted to maybe put some boundaries or some definitions to those words for you, things that we assign around those three things, and hopefully help support you navigating, finding out what you need and what you want to succeed, finding out, where you have opportunities to fill some gaps, or deficiencies in some of those areas, and then finding out how you can support others around recognition, value, and praise. Mm-hmm. And praise is it's the one that I forgot, but it's actually one of the important ones that I think we're gonna talk about, because I think it gets overlooked sometimes when we're talking about recognition and value. So, really excited to dive into this topic. Should we begin with definitions, or do you want to talk more generally about it?
I think the only thing I would add, and you kind of alluded to it already, but I think it's important to call out, is the reason we're talking about this is I think of the workplace love languages, like some of you, the love language kind of definition or phenomenon or whatever you want to call it. And what I think is really important about that is knowing yourself enough to know, making sure that you can give yourself your own validation and not needing it exclusively externally. But I think we need different things at different times. And if we don't get it, it feels like a gap. It feels like a miss, and it can send us into some spaces that are not ideal. And so I think I just wanted to create maybe more of a foundation of why we're talking about this, and recognizing that all of us most likely need all of these at different places and spaces. And it's our responsibility to own what we need and to ask for it, to identify it. We'll dive into that, but I just wanted to add on to that.
I completely agree. I think that's actually a really great place to start before we define what we think these things mean. Because oftentimes when we are out in the world, we expect other people to behave the way that we want or desire to be, whether it's recognized, valued, or even treated. The golden rule has been around for eons and ages. I think we've talked about this on an episode last year. I don't know that we've brought it up this season. But we actually, we'll shout out to Dion King, who's one of our favorite mediator and facilitators of training and wonderful knowledge. She actually coined the phrase, or she's the first person I heard it from. I know she's probably borrowed it from someplace, but she talked about the platinum rule. Mm-hmm. And, the golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated. Well, the platinum rule is really designed around treating others how they prefer to be treated. So that forces you to ask someone, what are your preferences here? How can I support you? Versus, well, if I were in this situation, this is what I would want or what I would need. And so I'm going to assign that to them, and that's how I'm going to treat them in this situation, which doesn't necessarily produce bad results or harmful results. The golden rule is we're not saying it's bad or wrong. I think that's sort of a foundation to unpacking and uncovering some of this work we're going to talk about. But I think the next evolution or the next layer up in growth and development is really looking at what other people's experiences are and what they need. And so that really plays into this space significantly, because you were talking about love languages and, whether you align to, I think we all know what love languages are, which is why we reference it. We're not advocating for it at all. And that's all about, how other people experience and receive love. Well, what we're talking about here is there's an opportunity to explore that in all of the spaces of recognition, value, and praise. So you unpacking what you need is sort of step one. That's the golden rule around like this work. But the platinum level here would be asking others what they need and how they want to be recognized, how they find value in themselves and in the work, and maybe how you then you can start to connect the dots to how you could support that, and then what is praise to them. What you think is praise for you may be very different for someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this topic for lots of reasons, and I think for our community specifically, Peggy Vasquez wrote a book that many people know of that's not just an admin. Like I think this is a topic that really haunts maybe our community in a way that others may not experience. Like recognizing our intrinsic value, not only as humans, but as contributions to the workforce, as amazing contributors to the organizations that we work for, the executives we serve, whatever your kind of situation is. Like, I think that is something that we as a community struggle with. And so finding like it all starts with recognizing our own value. And that looks like not diminishing, or demeaning what we do. That looks like a lot of different things, and we can dive in a little bit later. But I call that out because I think it's easy for us in the admin community to kind of overlook that, because oftentimes we are natural caregivers, we're helpers, we're support. Like that's who we are just at our core. And it can be very external focus and facing. And so realizing that we need to figure out what that looks like for us and that value looks like for us before we can seek it from external parties, or before we say, this is what I need, this is what is important to me in this moment. And that's tough work. Like I don't want to say like, realize your value. Simple as that. Like that is really tough work, but it is essential, because if you don't do that work first, you will never get enough external validation to help you reach a level that you can recognize. I went a little heavy there.
It's truth though. I mean, yeah, you're dropping truth bombs. But it's very true, and it's very much connected to what we keep saying around IAAP is not here to fix the world for you. We're not here to fix the business environment so that the business environment, all of a sudden, you walk in and you have a different experience inside your workplace. That is work we are empowering you to do. And this is another layer to that, this value proposition. And we hear it constantly. My employer doesn't value me. My executive doesn't value me. They don't see, they're not utilizing my skill set because they don't understand what I have to offer. And the reality is that is true. That's a valid experience. And what you have control over is unpacking how you're contributing to that. So that is again, I feel like we're constantly pointing. I'm doing it physically. If you're watching, if you're listening, you can't see me, but we're constantly pointing inside, because that's where it starts. That's really where the work has to begin. We recognize that there are ecosystems that are not validating your role in the ways that we think they should. we 100% recognize that those are challenges and issues out in the workplace. And the most impactful work we can do is to support the admins working inside the profession to find their value and their voice and really understand how when you show up in your own value, you actually change how other people experience you. So it's not going to happen overnight. It doesn't, it's both of those things sort of working in tandem where we're talking about the issues in the ecosystem. And that is IAAP's role as well. While we can't fix it, we can absolutely address it. We can advocate around it. We can talk to the people in positions of power and authority, and challenge on that side some of the things that are happening that are supporting that ecosystem. And if we do that work and then you show up the same, feeling undervalued, I can guarantee you your experience will not change. Because when you're looking for something, that's what you're going to find.
Yeah.
When you are on the path of, this is what I know, all of the evidence you see is going to support that.
Yeah.
So that is true in the value proposition space, especially.
Yeah. I feel like we shout out Veronica Cochran at pretty much every episode.
Yeah, every other episode, if not every.
Episode. And I'm going to do it again. But Veronica at our summit keynote this year talked about us creating our own reality. And it's so true. And it can feel a little unattainable that way, but you don't understand. This is happening and this is happening and this is happening. And yes, all of that is true and valid. And we really do create our own reality. So I had to kind of underline and italics and bold everything you just said, because unless and until we can figure out how we value ourselves and we recognize that value that we bring and contribute. I promise we're going to get to definitions, y'all. I promise. But unless and until
we may wrap with
that,
definitions today.
we feel strongly, but unless and until we can do that, nothing will change. What we share with you here will not matter unless and until we recognize our own value. We are not going to recognize the toxic workplaces that we need to leave. We are not going to experience breakthrough with our executives. And so that's why we keep wanting to move on. And I feel like I keep bringing us back because it's so imperative. It's so imperative that we get this first step before we can take any of the other steps. And so that may look like a coach. That may look like, being a part of IAAP, finding a mentor. Like it can look like a lot of different ways to help support you. I don't want to say that intrinsic work happens in a vacuum, but you have to start shifting your mindset and then reaching for external support in that.
I love that. I think the commitment to the self-work happens in a vacuum. That has to be yours. You have to own that. No one can give that to you. No one can, you can find inspiration. Hopefully this podcast gives you, a little bit of a boost, but we can't do that work for you. That is the place where it has to be you. You are the one who has to decide, yes, this is work I want to explore. I deserve this. I am worth this work. And I'm going to take the time to commit to whatever it takes to unpacking the things that I need to explore and unpack in myself. That is yours. That's your work. The rest of the work can happen in lots of beautiful, supportive ways with other people included and involved. And we actually ask you to be really thoughtful and discerning about who you invite into that space with you. And that's all part of the journey. So yes, but step one is yours. That absolutely, maybe not, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, but it happens singularly. It has to be your own work and your own decision. And it's a powerful moment too, when you recognize that you are making that choice, that it is a conscious choice that you're making to move forward in that self-discovery, self-work space.
Yeah. Without
definitions, shall we?
With that setup, yes, we
are totally going to read these too, because
They were written so beautifully.
They really are.
Should we start with value? We've talked a lot about value. I think we should define that one.
Let's do that. So the definition of value, and again, these are ideas around definitions for you just to get you started, but everybody gets to define these in your own personal ways. But we think an approachable definition is understanding and appreciating the inherent worth that someone brings to the role, team, or organization through their skills, perspective, and presence. This goes deeper than what they do to who they are and what they contribute. So an example here would be your attention to detail and your ability to anticipate needs makes our entire team more effective.
I cannot love this definition more. And I think you know why. I'm going to say it out loud anyway. Like, it's so easy, especially with the other definitions that we're going to read, that it's all about what we do, what we accomplish, the task check off, this, and value inherently. We all have value inherently just by being ourselves.
A human?
By showing up, by opening the front door and walking in every day, So I love, love, love this. And the example, even, how do we recognize the value in others? Once we've done that step one work, then I think really our next step is to start shining light for people who may not have found that themselves. And so that's why I love this example, because I think it does just that.
Right. And there is a uniqueness that we all have as humans. We've talked about this before, that the human experience really, truly, while we have so many things alike and in common, the beautiful thing is each one of us is also wonderfully unique. And there is a special, unique contribution that we each bring to the table that no one else has. Mm-hmm. So finding that self-inherent space is where that value proposition sort of lies. And there are a lot of values that we all share, or that many of us share, especially when we're talking about one profession, and in this instance, the administrative community. Administrative professionals have a lot of things that we share in common in terms of the value we bring to the table. We tend to be very compassionate folks. We care a lot about other people's experiences. That's a very shared common value that we bring not just to the role, but I think to the workplace culture.
Yeah.
Which is one of those spaces where if we can really empower you to find that value and live within it and own it, when you walk into the space, so that you can really start to influence and change the ecosystem a bit because of how you show up in it. That's the goal here around exploring your value. So there are some of those common values that I think administrative professionals bring to the workplace and to the partnering space. But find your own. What is your unique value? What's your unique value proposition that you think you have to offer that you don't think anyone else has the same? I mean, they can have similarities, of course, but we all have the thing.
Somebody on our team, Katie on our team, calls it the secret sauce. What's your secret sauce that you bring in to the analogies for food just ran
to the recipe?
I am going to stop it right there. What is your secret sauce?
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
So the next one, I think I would love to go to, how do you feel about going to recognition next?
Yep, I think that's great.
I like that. So recognition, we've just defined as formal or informal acknowledgement of specific achievements, contributions, or accomplishments. This is about calling out what someone has done and giving it visibility. For example, I want to recognize Sarah for leading the vendor negotiation that saved us 15% on office supplies.
Yeah, and I think this one especially feels pretty obvious, like we know what it is, but the reality here, the nuance around recognition is that some people need different things around recognition. So I think there's even opportunity here to determine if Sarah would find benefit in that type of public call out and public recognition. So I think the especially important part about recognition is you, again, have to do your own work around what recognition is important to you, and how do you best receive it? Like, what's the best way for you to be recognized? We have some folks on our team who have explicitly said, like, I actually don't like to be called out in a group setting. That actually doesn't feel good to me. I would love for you to recognize these accomplishments one-on-one, or even just a simple message on Teams to say, hey, I noticed this and you did a great job on this. And we have other folks on our team who are like, yes,
It doesn't count unless
call it out, please. Like, I want other people to celebrate with me. And that's not about ego or, it really comes from a place of, this is a team effort. And I know I contributed in this way to it, but I want everyone to celebrate with me. I want it to be in a public space and arena where we can all celebrate together and we get to share in that joy of that moment with my peers. And so those are two very different experiences. Specifically, we could call out the exact same thing to recognize Sarah, but Sarah may want that in a one-on-one conversation or may want that as a public recognition. So I think there's work here for you to do around what is your preferred method of receiving recognition, and what type of recognition do you really, what really sparks the joy for you? We can overuse recognition sometimes as a way to not do the work, to not do the value work that we were talking about. If we just keep peppering with, like, great job on this project, great job on this, like, sometimes that can get, number one, it diminishes, I think, the meaning of some of the recognition. But it also is, like, if that's a need where you're like, I need you to constantly give me all the compliments. Like, I need it constantly. I'm 10, give me 10 every day. That's probably a space where you need to explore, what are the other gaps here? What is that filling? Because that's filling some sort of void for you, or it's allowing you to ignore something that you probably need to poke at or pull at. And it's just not sustainable. It's not, again, it diminishes, the more you get the compliments, the less impactful they become when they're spaced appropriately. And that looks different for everyone. So I'm not assigning once a week is all you get. You need to do that work to think through where's that sweet spot for me, where I'm going to know that my contributions are being recognized, and I feel good about them, and that keeps me motivated to keep working? Or am I relying on that to fix something else or avoid the self-exploration and self-discovery that I need to do?
Yeah. And I'm going to use the word that I think we have used on every single podcast. Hopefully nobody's using it as a drinking game, but I think the other piece of this for administrative professionals really is curiosity around others. I see on our social link often people are like, I have to do this team building, and does anybody have ideas or whatever? So you also may be able to kind of lead the way for a team that you support, or if you support an executive, their team, to really search out how people like to be recognized and lead the way and kind of not make it a blanket experience for everybody. So I love that you called that out, because it really does. It goes so much further if you can hear from people what that recognition, how that is most impactful for them. And then you remember and you provide that, when appropriate.
Agreed.
I would actually love, and I read the last one and I'm jumping in, I'm really sorry, but I think this is an important one to do before we move on to the other one, is acknowledgment. And I love this one. I'm going to read the definition and then I'll share why I love it. But acknowledgment is simply seeing and affirming someone's efforts, presence, or experience without necessarily evaluating or praising it. This is about validation and being witnessed. Example, I see how much extra time you've been putting in during this transition period. And sometimes things don't go well, right? Like, Oh my gosh, spoiler alert, but sometimes we work really hard and it does not provide the outcome that we had hoped for. And that doesn't mean that we don't want the work, the time, the effort acknowledged, just to say, you know what, I saw that you worked really hard on it. And maybe you even say it really sucks that it didn't come out that way, or just seeing someone, I think, is so beautiful. And maybe it did go well and you can still acknowledge them, but the praise and the recognition feels more like on the other side of a quote unquote job well done versus the effort behind it. And so acknowledgement just feels like, hey, I see you, and I just see you. I'm not even going to go any further, because that's sometimes all we need to keep going.
I think I really love moving into acknowledgement, because acknowledgement to me sort of lives on the outside of this recognition praise discussion, because it is something entirely different that isn't about your experience, which recognition is 100% about something that I see that I think was wonderful or great or contributed in this way. Praise, similar. And even value, if you're talking about, if we're talking about the value that I see that you bring, that's still my assessment of what you are bringing to the table. Acknowledgement is all about validating someone else's experience, witnessing that they put in effort, or that they're showing up, or that they are contributing. And then that gives space for them to decide, do I believe it was good? Do I believe it was the right outcome? Do I, it reminds me too of this idea in parenting where we're talking about, not assigning an experience to a child, not saying, not delivering the experience, letting the child decide, did that hurt? Was that painful? Was that experience bad or good? Or did I do a great job on this project? So giving someone else agency around the feelings and their experience, but still acknowledging that you see them, is a really powerful tool that I don't think we use often enough. And to be honest, I think it's harder. And we move too quickly, especially in the workplace. We're just trying to get to outcomes or get through things. And it's well-intentioned. We want to give people the recognition we believe they deserve. And we miss the opportunity to really empower them to make their own decision about assigning value to it, or, was it good, bad, right, wrong? Do I feel good about it? Sometimes we recognize folks, and that impacts their ability to really unpack their experience. So love the acknowledgement space. And it's a tool that, I think Rachel and I take ourselves to school around this a lot, with the team, and trying to create more responsibility for acknowledgement versus recognition and praise.
I love that. Yeah. Projecting our own stuff on other people. Yes. I love that. Should we wrap with the last one? Do you want to read this one since
I will,
snuck in with acknowledgement?
Yes. So praise, the definition for that: positive evaluation or approval of someone's performance, character, or behavior. This expresses satisfaction or admiration for how well something was done. So an example of this is, you handled that difficult client situation brilliantly. Your patience and professionalism really showed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I always expect the best from you. So, I think recognition and praise are very similar coins. It's sort of two sides of the coin. But I do think, again, we're going to challenge you to think about what type of praise you prefer, what's helpful for you. And then on the giver side, if you're giving praise, I think there's also a responsibility here where I think there's a space where this idea around acknowledgement, we can bring that into the recognition and praise space, where we're also mindful. Like, you can specifically call attention to something that you found beneficial and leave space for, I know how hard you worked on that, or how much effort, I can see how much effort you really put into this project. So, again, curiosity is key here, exploring your own needs. And I really wanted to, as we were wrapping, be really clear about what to do with that self-exploration work. So I think holding on to that and knowing is a really great thing. But if you don't share that with the people you're expecting to receive praise, recognition, value, acknowledgement, if you don't share those things with the people you need them from, you're never going to get what you need and want from it. So it's a really important opportunity for you to have a conversation with the people who can support you in this. And it's not about, I have to have this. It's more about, I've done some work thinking about these things, and I really think this would be helpful for you to know that I prefer recognition in this way. I feel like I missed it in this example. I think that's a helpful way to talk to people about what you need. But if you don't share it, it really isn't going to, your experience is not going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other thing as we wrap that's really important and showed up in all of these examples really beautifully is they're very specific. And I think it can be easy for us as we're offering recognition or praise or even acknowledgement to kind of make it more general. Great job. You're doing fantastic. And those are not, like, I don't want to diminish that feels good when somebody says that, but the real impact is in that specific call out for a behavior, an experience, a perspective, whatever you're doing. So the more specific we can get, not only for others, but even for ourselves, I think creates more impact and more positive outcomes from any of these things that we've talked about.
Yes. And this also is not a one-way street. So you also can start exploring how other people on your team, how your executive, how the people you're supporting, how they want to be recognized and praised. Because the reality is, I think we also have an ecosystem that really supports that this comes from the top down, that, the only people that own the responsibility for praise and recognition in a workplace are the leaders or the people who are supervising someone else. And the reality is we all need it and want it from anywhere we can get it. So there's an opportunity here to even, be a change maker, a change agent inside of your workplace culture, and start asking leaders what they need and want from to be recognized or to feel valued. Because it really should be, anyone and everyone should be able to experience recognition and value from anyone.
I love that. Yes. This was a great episode. This is another one of those ones that I feel like if we can get it well, it changes. We keep talking about ecosystem. Like if we can create an ecosystem of recognition, acknowledgement, value, and praise, like everybody does that work themselves and everybody knows how each other operates, like game changing.
It is.
Game changing workplace experience.
Culture changing, I think. Workplace culture. This can change the game for not just admins, which is, that's the game. That's the goal.
And if you want these official definitions, email us and we'll send them to you.
100%. Yes. Thanks again for listening. And we'll see you next episode.
Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Beyond the Desk Admin Advocates. We hope you enjoyed diving deep into the world of admins with us.
Remember, this podcast isn't just about listening. It's about taking action. Whether it's advocating for yourself in the workplace or supporting your fellow admins, let's continue to elevate this profession together. If you have any thoughts, questions, or topics you'd like us to explore in future episodes, don't hesitate to reach out to us on social media or through our website.
Until next time, keep pushing beyond the desk. And remember, change begins with you. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.